Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
Well, ho, 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 the Christmas mayor is here.
Good morning, Brian. Thanks for having me on. Merry
Cornell Mayor John Buckley, nice downtown these days.
Well, thank you very much. We've worked very hard, the city, along with Hornell Partners for Growth, to really dress the city up, really dress Main Street up in downtown. As you can see, we've got lots of Christmas lights, the Christmas tree, Santa's cottage. Boy, we had one heck of a parade, Brian. I think that's the largest parade for Christmas we've ever had. It was an extraordinary event. Good times were had by all, lots of children. Singing Christmas carols. We've had approximately 500 children go through Santa's cottage already.
Wow.
That is incredible.
That's great. Now we also have some new hat buses. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I was down at the hat offices last week, and we had a little celebratory Christmas party down there, and they just accepted delivery of 3 brand new hat buses, which were very much needed. As you know, those hat buses rack up a lot of miles in a short time, and because of the process, with the state, it takes a while to actually get your hands on the buses. In fact, I've been on the Hat Commission for a number of years, and the process is so cumbersome. You actually, before you take possession or take ownership of the new buses, you're actually ordering the next buses. So that's how long it takes. It takes a number of years to actually go through the process. But we're very happy to have them. We've got to just put them through their paces before they hit the road. But I expect them to actually be deployed in the next week or so. So we're very happy on that.
These hat buses, will they be replacing older ones, or will they be additional hat buses?
They'll be replacing old hat buses. What we do with a lot of the old hat buses, especially the ones that are really getting up there in age, we'll start cannibalizing them for parts to keep the other hat buses on. So even though we may only use 9, 10, 11 buses in the rotation, we might actually have 3, 4, or 5 more buses on the sidelines that we've just kind of been taking parts off from over the years, just to that's a cost savings right there, just to use those parts and whenever we can, whether it's whatever it is. There's a lot of parts on those hat buses, Brian, but it's nice. We just recently switched over from Ford to Chevy. One thing I've noticed over the last few years, and not just with hat buses in particular, but ambulances as well, the Chevys seem to be holding up a little bit longer, getting a little bit more miles out of them. For whatever reason, the Fords, we've been noticing transmission and suspension problems. So going over to the Chevys, and hopefully they'll give us a few more miles.
That's great. Talking with Hornell Mayor John Buckley this morning, what's going on Shawmut Drive these days?
Well, actually, we're having some meetings tonight. The planning board is meeting tonight. The council's meeting tonight, and what we're anticipating doing is rezoning Shawmut Drive from light industrial to R3, which is residential multifamily. Working through the IDA, the Hornell IDA, there's a company out there that's interested in doing a housing development. So we're looking at a potential of 6 buildings with 60 units, and unlike Reedman and Bassett, which is kind of more the high-end market rate, this would be more affordable, more working class, if you will. So I think that'd be a nice thing. As you may remember, the city conducted a housing study several years ago, and the housing study determined that the city was many units shy of what we actually need, hundreds of units in fact, and that has in part to do with Alstom and the run up there, and they've been ramping up and adding employees left and right, and they're approaching 1,000 employees. So when you have all these businesses popping up, smaller businesses and large businesses like Alstom expanding, people need a place to live, and the housing stack in the city of Hornell is in excess of 100 years old. So It's nice to actually have these new developments pop up, whether it's Reedman up on Fairlawn, Bassett, adjacent to the airport, and potentially a new development down at Chalmette. So it's things are looking up. We're expanding the housing, making Hornell more attractive to outsiders and more attractive and more welcoming.
The hospital construction progress and the medical office building there. What's the latest there?
Well, we had the ribbon cutting. Actually, we had 2 ribbon cuttings in the same day just recently. One was for Oak Orchard, and they're moving their facilities up there, and not only moving, but they're expanding. They'll be offering a dentist, so they'll have dental services right there, and we had a separate ribbon cutting for the medical office building itself. And there was a lot of community members, a lot of community support. Dignitaries, Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul was there to cut the ribbons, and she kind of made a funny little quip there that she's been at many ribbon cuttings over the years, but she's never cut 2 ribbons in the same hour. So, so a lot going on up there. But it was nice. We had a walk through and got to tour the new medical office buildings, and it's top notch. It's absolutely beautiful. The next time they have an open house or you just have a chance to go up and take a look around, I urge you to do so. It's incredible. Brian O'Donovan, by the way, the new CEO of St. James, doing an incredible job. Brian and I. We talk on a regular basis, and they're doing yeoman's work up there. As you can imagine, it's a heavy lift. It's a big transition when changing not just the hospital, but all the different medical facilities and buildings, moving them all up there. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of coordination that goes into that. So he's been doing just a fantastic job. Not just coordinating all that, but keeping people like myself and other elected officials in the loop and in the know. So really appreciate Brian O'Donovan's efforts.
Yes, he was on the Newsmaker show, I believe, 2 weeks ago. Maybe that was 3 weeks ago, and we had a very interesting conversation. We also spoke late last week with State Senator Kathy Young. It would be interesting to get her thoughts on the idea of the legislature going full-time. I know Senator Tom O'Mara is opposed to that. We'll talk about that when we get back here on the Newsmaker show. Stay with us. We're with Hornell Mayor John Buckley this morning.
The DJ you should hire listens to you about the kind of party or reception you'd like to have, pronounces your name right, plays the music you request, not the songs he feels like hearing. The DJ you should hire works out the songs ahead of time with you. Sean Stewart, DJ Truth, for all occasions, weddings, dances, graduations, anniversaries, and parties. 661-7658, 661-7658, 661-7658 for Sean Stewart, DJ Truth.
Have you heard the news? Michael John's Corner Mart has a deli inside. Michael John's has cold cuts and cheeses at the best prices around. Stop in for bologna, ham, roast beef, turkey, pastrami, salami, and capicola. Michael John's also has 5 different cheeses to choose from. If you don't want to make your own sandwich, let Michael John's make one for you. They sell 4, 8, and 16-inch subs with all the toppings you could want. They even offer premium subs. Now, if subs and sandwiches aren't your thing, try something from the fryer, like fried cheese curds, cauliflower, mushrooms, chicken fritters, mozzarella sticks, jumbo chicken wings, or French fries. Give them a call at 607-385-3119 or stop into Michael John's Corner Convenient Mart, Main Street, Hornell, and let them cook for you.
Checking in now with meteorologist Rob Carolyn, who says warmer this week.
And we're headed towards a milder stretch of weather, though we'll briefly turn cool as we head through the day tomorrow, and then things will bounce back Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We've got a storm system off the East Coast. It continues to head out to sea. A lot of cloudiness showing up on the satellite photos. There's been a couple of breaks out there, and there may be a few more before the day is done. May also see a passing flurry or snow shower. We're going to be breezy in about 33 to 38 later today. Sunrise earlier this morning at 7:34. It'll set tonight at 4:39. We're headed into some of our shortest day of the year, with the day length only around 9 hours and 5 minutes right now. A lot of cloudiness for tonight. There may be a couple of flurries. It's breezy, chilly overnight, 20 to 25. Cold weather is with us tomorrow. We're partly sunny. We're only 25 to 30. Clear, 15 to 20 tomorrow night, but then it turns milder Wednesday. Sunshine up around 40. We'll see some clouds head our way on Thursday, Believe it or not, Brian, by Friday, we could be up into the 50s.
Thank you, Rob. Back with Hornell Mayor John Buckley, new fire chief for Hornell, Frank Brzezowski.
Yeah, so after 36 years, Fire Chief Dan Smith decided to retire, and we had extensive interviews, with the three captains that were eligible for the position, and we selected Frank, and Frank has been on the the fire department. He's been there a long time, and I think everyone in the community knows or is familiar with Frank, and he's been doing an outstanding job for a long time, not just on the fire side, but as a paramedic. He's worked at St. James for a number of years, and he actually has certain certifications from working at St. James that he passes along to our guys at the fire station, which saves the city a lot of money. So he's been doing an outstanding job. He's a hard worker. He's dedicated. Very excited for Frank and the direction of the fire department. I think Frank and the guys down at the firehouse have a great future ahead of them. I'm very happy for him. I really can't say enough about the guy. Just a blue collar, hard working guy. Very knowledgeable, very experienced. I think he'll do well.
Hornell Police, what's going on with the police station these days?
Well, Brian, last year when I came into office, I made it a priority of mine to really ramp up the war on drugs, for if you will, for lack of a better term, and really the Hornell Police Department has responded, and throughout the year we've had numerous drug raids. Some we've done in-house by ourselves. Others we partnered with the Steuben County Sheriff's Department, the state police, the district attorney's office, Brooks Baker. We've had large raids, we've had small raids, but holy cow, those guys have done an enormous job this year cracking down on drugs, the drug dealers, the drug trafficking, the meth. Across the board, and continue to do so. And I can't say enough about them. They do an outstanding job. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention investigator Tom Ianni. Tom Ianni does yeoman's work. I mean, this guy is amazing. The hours that he puts in, the dedication, the nights, the weekends. It's just incredible the work that he does, and not just all the officers, but even Chief Murray himself has been involved directly with some of these sting operations. Being there personally with some of the younger officers, leading by example, and it's very heartening to see that. And as I said, they've done a wonderful job throughout the year and continue to do so.
Very interesting. We're talking with Hornell Mayor John Buckley this morning. Moving on to state issues. Actually, before we do, a county issue, which is sort of a state issue. The state wanted to mandate that all prisoners would have to go to Steuben County Court for an appearance, as opposed to just doing it in the local courts like Hornell City Court. And you and the mayors in Corning and elsewhere stepped up and said, wait a second, this is going to cause chaos. Is there anything new there?
Well, actually, there is, and we're still trying to work our way through it and finalize the agreement. So what you're referring to is a central arraignment plan, where you would take people, instead of arraigning them in the cities and villages, you would funnel them all to Bath and do all the arraignments there. And this comes down from the state, and it really comes down from a court decision, which there was a person that was arraigned that had sued because the person didn't have representation at the time of arraignment. And some of these arraignments, Brian, they're done in the wee hours of the night, on weekends, on holidays, and it's really more of a procedural matter. But because of the court case, the state has mandated that all courts must provide legal counsel, whether it's an arraignment or not. So they put that onus on the county, but the county is ill-equipped to handle that, because the county can't go out and hire a half dozen attorneys, and they just don't exist. In Steuben County, there's not a whole lot of attorneys that are, you can't just walk into a store and grab them off a shelf and say, hey, come with me. It just doesn't work that way. So, we've been working out a plan, and, with county officials and also the Sheriff's Department. So we've been all working together. Mark Reichman, who's a city manager over in Corning, Mark and I have been working together on this. But, Hornell led on this. I put my foot down and said, hey, we're not going to, sit back and just, eat $100,000 mandate. So, at the end of the day, I think everyone will have to contribute a little bit, but it won't nearly be what we thought it was. And that's because we took a stand right here in Hornell, New York.
Yes, and I remember that the talk was at the time it's going to happen whether we want to or not. But that's I imagine that's quite the good thing that the brakes have been put on there.
Yes, and I've got to give credit to the county legislature and Jack Wheeler, who's the administrator over there in Bath. They've been great to work with, and we all understand that none of us had asked for this. It's just something that's been thrust upon us, and just working with the county and working with the Sheriff's Department. I think we haven't finalized it yet, but we're on the road to do so.
Mayor Buckley. State Senator Tom O'Mara put out a statement condemning this idea that's coming down the pike, that they want the state legislature to be a full-time job. We probably a lot of people we think of it as being a full-time job because WLEA interviews them all year round, but they're not there all year round.
No, they're not, Brian. In fact, many people, whether it's in the assembly or the state senate, they have other jobs as well. Some are lawyers, attorneys, some are doctors, some are just business people. So it's always been a part-time job, even though the general public may not realize it. It may not be portrayed that way. When you listen to the radio or read the newspaper, but in fact, it's always been a part-time legislature, and I think it ought to continue that way. If you look at New York State, and we still have the highest taxes in the nation across the board, most onerous regulations across the board. And ever since this last election, it seems like Governor Cuomo has been kind of pulled or tugged to the left, ideological wise. But I think, this is just my opinion, but I think the less that the legislature is there, the better. The more that they're there, the more they muck up, honestly. So when they're not there, they're not screwing anything up. But I just think it's a bad idea. The salary increases obviously are attached to this full-time position, and people are up in arms, and rightfully so. It should be a part-time. You don't need a full-time legislature in Albany. I don't see any reason for it. I don't see any good that'll come out of it. It'll just be, especially for upstate, because there's such a divide between upstate and downstate. It's just a totally different world downstate than it is upstate. When they pass a law or pass a bill or pass a budget, there's always this one size fits all approach, but it doesn't. It just doesn't work up. What works here doesn't work downstate, and what works downstate doesn't work upstate. And they ought to realize that and come to some common sense conclusions sometimes, but unfortunately it doesn't always happen that way.
Senator O'Mara, on this idea of a full-time legislature, what he says is it's bad enough that they're there 6 months out of the year, because what you get is a lot of unnecessary laws and a lot of duplicate laws. He says they pass a law to prevent something, and it's already on the books once, twice, maybe 3 times already.
Well, Senator O'Mara is 100% correct, and in fact, the one thing that he didn't say is a lot of times, just the way the system is set up, is there'll be these one-house bills, and what a one-house bill is you'll have an assemblyman. A lot of times they'll say, well, I introduced this bill and it's going to do wonders for this, whatever it happens to be, but the assemblyman or assemblywoman knows full well that bill has no chance whatsoever to get through the Senate, let alone have the governor sign it. But they put it out to the news and say, oh, look at me, I'm doing this, I'm trying, and they try to prop themselves up and take credit for. So I think you'll see more of that. If they're there full time, that means they've got more time on their hands to justify what they're doing. So it's those things, or those one house bills are more, look at me, look what I'm trying to do. But in reality, they don't have any effect and have no chance of passing.
We've been talking with Hornell Mayor John Buckley this morning, live on the Newsmaker show. Mayor Buckley in the studio with us. Finishing up, anything else for Christmas? Any final holiday thoughts there?
Well, I just urge everyone just to kind of take a step back this Christmas and look inward, look at your family, look at your friends, look at your community, and take a step back from politics and the divisive atmosphere that we've had here in recent years. And too many times, whether you're listening to the radio or maybe these shows or reading the newspaper or just the 24/7 news cycle on TV, social media, it divides people, Brian, and it really does. And it's unfortunate, but this Christmas time, everyone should get together, put those petty differences aside, love one another, and just enjoy the Christmas season. And hopefully we can all do that. So my final parting shot to you is Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and God bless you all.
Well, thank you very much for the nice thoughts, Mayor John Buckley.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me.
It's AM 1480 WLEA Hornell.